note it's been recorded and live streamed. To commence the meeting only when it's confirmed the meeting is live. Public participation, I don't there's no participation. Well, I think the rest of the rules are pretty known by members. Set your microphones to mute at the start of the meeting, only unmute when I invite you to speak. Indicate with the hand in the usual digital way, and I'm not sure whether we'll be forcing it to a vote on recommendations, but I think we're about ready to go.
The meeting, Chair.
We are live, Chair.
Sorry?
We are live, Chair.
We are live. Oh, thank you very much. I didn't even have to say it. Item 1 then, announcements. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded for future publication on the council's website. Can I please ask you that you turn your mobile phones off or to silent for the duration of the meeting? Apologies. With no apologies. We do have one substitution. You deal with that, Victoria?
Yeah, we had apologies from Councillor Gran. Councillor Evans will be substituting for him this evening.
Thank you very much. Minutes. To approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of September 2020. Is that, I'll move the proposal, if you like, that we approve the minutes. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you. Any comments? Anyone wish to speak on that? Is there any dissent from approving the minutes? In which case, I'll assume that the minutes have been approved. Thank you. Declarations of interest. Members to declare any interest not included in the schedule. Are there any further declarations? No. In that case, I can move on. Public participation. We have no speakers today. Local plan update. Report presented by Philip Larton. Philip.
Thank you, Chair. In this year, we've consulted on 4 policy documents, 2 sustainability appraisal scoping reports, a health impact assessment SPD, and an open space and green infrastructure SPD. The consultations on them have all closed and responses are now being considered. We continue to cooperate with our neighbouring authorities and work is progressing on the evidence base for local plan review. The recommendations remain as published in the report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, any members? Kyle Evans, Councillor Evans.
Just there we go. Right, yes, hello. It might sound a daft question, but one that I'd like clarifying. When an SPD is approved by council, that becomes council policy, yeah?
Are you addressing that to the officer?
Through you, Chair, yes.
Yeah, okay. Philip.
It becomes not part of the development plan, but it does become a material consideration in determinations of planning applications.
So it does. So when a full council agrees to adopt an SPD, whether it be concept plans, the hot food takeaway orders, those become council policy.
Yeah, in the manner in which I've explained. Yes, they do. Yes.
So they are a material consideration for determining planning applications as per the NPPF.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So do you accept that when planning applications are submitted to this council and they are not in line with adopted council policy, i.e. the SPDs, the concept plans, why on earth is the planning department telling the committee to approve those applications when they completely contradict adopted council policy?
Right. Okay. I'm not sure. I know which application. Oh, sorry, Ashley.
Ashley.
Chair, through you. So just to be clear, obviously the purpose of this report is to update members on local plan progress. So obviously the question I'm being asked it is slightly off track from the purpose of the report. In answering that question, what I would say, Chair, is when planning committee receive a recommendation from officers, the case officer is undertaking a planning balance, so that they're coming up with a recommendation based on the development plan as well as material considerations, and they're presenting the committee with their professional opinion. So that in some instances will mean that there'll be a conflict with policy, but that will be balanced within the case officer's report.
I take your point, Ashley, that in actual fact that Kyle is trying to present issues which would go before a planning committee rather than before a local plan committee. And in terms of it being a material considerations, it means it's not ignored and it's taken into account in decision making that takes place prior to a committee meeting. Would that be right?
So, Chair, so yeah, effectively the case officer balances out all of those different issues and presents planning committee with their recommendation. And then obviously the committee have a decision to make. But like I say, it's slightly different from the report that we're presenting to this committee, which is about local plan progress. Thank you.
Kyle, I'll let you come back once more, but I think we're treading in a bog, really, and we're in danger of sinking and losing sight of what the purpose of the meeting is about.
The purpose of the meeting is to give us an update on the local plan.
Yes.
And that is what the report is about. And the report, on a number of occasions, refers to supplementary planning documents. Yes. And a supplementary planning document which has been adopted by this council is the concept plans for strategic allocations in the borough plan. So I think it's perfectly relevant to this meeting. So what my next question is, if it is adopted council policy, what is the planning department doing, more specifically planning policy, to encourage developers to follow the SPDs when they come to submit planning applications to the council? And my second question on that would be, given that the borough plan lifespan is between now and 2031, when will the council consider reviewing all of the supplementary planning documents, specifically the one for HSG4, which is already outdated?
Ashley, do you want to answer that one? Or is it one for Philip?
No, that's fine. I'm happy to answer that, Chair. So in terms of what do the planning policy department do to encourage or sort of ensure that the policy that we've adopted is delivered? So planning policy are consultee on all planning applications, so they'll provide their comments. So they go to the case officer as part of their consideration, and then they'll be engaged in, if we have pre-app discussions or meetings throughout the planning application process, subject to availability and resources. So they'll be part of that discussion process. And then the case officer who's determining the application, it's also incumbent on them to try and ensure where we can the planning policies and process works. In terms of the second question, what the council's committed to is a local plan review. I can't answer on behalf of the council, but ultimately, as part of any local plan review, you'll have to consider all of your existing policies. So as part of that process, the council will need to look at everything they've got adopted, and that might then trigger a refresh of the concept plans.
But
Thank you.
so would that be a decision? Would that be a political decision by the portfolio holder for planning, or is that just a decision that you, as the head of the planning department, would take during the local plan review process?
Do you want me to come back, Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be a decision for myself, because ultimately it would be a decision for the council to make. So what we do as we move through the local plan process, obviously we'd be briefing members as we progress through that. And if we decide or the evidence indicated that the existing allocations needed review or the concept plans needed review, you'd embed that within your emerging policy, and you would then basically ultimately take a report upon adoption of the local plan, which recommended or set out what that process would be. I mean, at this stage, it's far too early to predict what that might look like or how that might work, because there's lots of different ways that we could go about the process. We don't have to do it exactly the same. But yeah, ultimately it would be a decision for the council, and you just get a recommendation from the officers.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Tromans. Oh, sorry, Councillor Golby. I think you were first.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Kyle's actually covered some of the things that I wanted to come back on with regards to the policy. I'm just a bit baffled as to why we adopt policy and then don't actually implement it. But that's probably a conversation for another day. But we are basing policy and we are creating policy off the borough plan. So it is intrinsically linked. So I do understand why Councillor Evans has brought it up today. But yeah, I think that this is one that we need to go away and have a review on. Why are we implementing policy and then talking round it? I don't understand that. But yeah, it's for another day. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tromans.
Thank you, Chair. If I can, just before I start, get you to ask the officer presenting the report, Philip Larter, was it? Yeah, I think it was.
Yes.
Just to confirm, when did the council actually finally vote to review the borough plan? Can you just confirm when that was?
I'm sorry, Councillor. I'm struggling to understand the question.
Yeah, obviously we're going through. We are part of the local plan committee, looking at enacting what the council passed, which was a motion to say that the local plan should be reviewed, and that's our purpose. That's what this committee was set up to do. It was done after quite a lot of pressing. The controlling group did finally agree, and we did get a motion through council. And I'm just asking if anyone can remind me when that was.
No, I wouldn't know when that is. I'd have to look that up for you, I'm afraid, Councillor.
Would any member be able to help us, Chair?
No, it doesn't appear so.
I can.
Oh, Kyle, when was it?
I think it was before Christmas, Chair, that we voted as a council to start the process of an immediate review.
Yeah, not this last one though, but the one before, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been at this a couple of years, and it was supposed to be an immediate review. And I think the point I want to make here, Chair, is if I can just under point 7 of the report, refer members to the appendices, and in particular the Gantt chart, local development scheme Gantt chart. And what this is telling us is that, as we have always been saying in this meeting, or I have, and some of my colleagues in these meetings, is what progress are we making? When are we going to review the borough plan? We were supposed to have an immediate review of the borough plan, and the first few meetings just wanted to talk about peripheral stuff. And then finally, when there was an acceptance that, you know, probably the public and press weren't going to be brushed off with that, we started to get into talking about, oh, well, there's some work to do, some preparation work to be done, some policies to be revisited and reevaluated and all the rest of it. But we'll do it as soon as we can. And the prospector was held out that it would, you know, be months, you know, rather than weeks more, but certainly not a year more, or 2 years more, or 3 years more, or even more than that, because the Gantt chart I'm looking at tells me that there is no prospect of there being a new plan adopted before February 2023. So we are looking at another 2 years as kind of a minimum, and yet we're kind of a couple of years into this process. Or, I mean, you know, even if we were 6 months into this process, or a week into it, another couple of years is not what anyone would consider to be an immediate review of the borough plan. It was supposed to be an immediate review, urgently. I think the word urgently was in there, on the back of what were 2018 election results, which made it pretty clear how unpopular the borough plan was. And yet, as I say, this Gantt chart's telling me that we're all wasting our time, because there's no prospect of this council being left to its current devices and plans, giving us a new plan before, as I say, February 2023. And I think that kind of tells us that maybe we need to be doing something different, and we've already lost too much time and need to do whatever it takes to accelerate things dramatically. And I don't know what my colleagues feel about that, but they can no doubt opine. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do you not feel, Councillor Tromans, that you're talking about the future, and the future at the moment is uncertain? There is such a thing as an election coming up.
Well,
I do note that you are perhaps preparing a forward position rather than looking the report as it stands, where it is absolutely clear that local authorities surrounding us are taking a different view, and the duty to cooperate is overwhelming in the current procedures. You can't even do a market assessment without the cooperation of other authorities. So I don't see how, from my personal point of view, this meeting is progressed by having those discussions. They're for the future, are they not?
I think, Chair, you made the position very clear. You can't see how we could have progressed further by now. I think I'm making a position very clear for myself and the group that I'm part of, that the public expectation was, and our expectation was, when we supported a motion for an immediate review of the borough plan, that would be immediate and that something meaningful would have happened now. And what I've got is a report in front of me that tells me there's no prospect of the borough plan changing in a material way before February 2023. And that doesn't meet my expectations, or I suggest the public's. But yeah, you're right, Chair, there is an election coming up, and if there was a change of control, I think the public could be assured that things would be progressed more quickly. Thank you.
Well, my response to that is to say, if you get your way and your colleagues, and you attempt that process without due process through these procedures that are in front of us today, you won't get change. Because as soon as the developers see that you're not working to the local plan or attempting to subvert it, they'll be putting in applications outside of the local plan and waiting for the inspector to make a decision about whether what they want to do is acceptable. And if the local plan isn't functioning properly, you'll be in trouble, won't you?
Absolutely, Chair. You've just hit the nail on the head. It's not, is it? Because the college got its plans through, because the plan you've got is defective. I'm sorry, Chair, but the controlling Labour group have got to own this. This was a politically motivated borough plan from the start, dragged out for years, and now we've ended up in a situation where its only saving grace was it was going to protect us from development outside of the borough plan area, and its first major test, it falls. So what's here isn't fit for purpose, despite all the years of foot dragging. And more years of foot dragging going forward won't help that, Chair. I'm sorry, but I don't want to make this party political, but people, if they want to have a proper borough plan, it can't obviously be left to the current incumbents. There's going to have to be a change of control.
I want to draw this particular debate to a close, but I would point out that the local plan is legally sound, and it's done due process all the way up to government inspectors and come back down again and had final approval by a full council. So it is not defective. It's met all the standards that are applied to us by government. And
Well,
that's where we are.
Tell us why it therefore failed and we were unable to defend the application for the college. Why did the college application be
I
granted?
think that was probably covered at the time of the planning application when it went to the inspector. His reasons, I understand, do with sustainability.
No,
And
his
he,
reasons,
it
Chair,
was,
to be blunt,
he said it was sustainable.
to be blunt, Chair, he
Okay.
said that we put no limit on the number of houses that could go in there. It was defective, and because we hasn't put a limit on, any number of extra ones could be forced into the area.
That
So that's what
inspector
he
will
said.
still be there when you do your business. Okay, all right. I think this debate should end now. I mean, we've got some. Is there any further speakers outside of the current speakers who wish to? Kyle, I won't let you back in. It's pointless, really. We're chasing our own tails, are we not?
No, I've got materially new points that I wish to raise
All
on
right.
this item.
Well, I tell you what, I'll call you back in. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So
I've got to invite the members to speak first.
who? Sorry.
I've got to invite the members to speak if they wish
No,
to.
that's fine. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Any other members?
John, Chair.
Councillor Phillips, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Going back to the report, I'd like to make an officer under the duty to cooperate and the updates that we've had. I noticed that Conservative run North Warwickshire Borough Council, although it might be seen that we have taken years to complete our plan, they're currently only in the examination process regarding
What
its
difference does
local
that
plan.
make?
Pardon? It's as the report, and also as per the report rather than anything else. Can someone please tell me what a Regulation 19 consultation is? Because I didn't understand that. It's also under the local authority update on where every other council is, please.
Ashley?
Thank you, Chair. So the Regulation 19 update. So in effect, and it's linked to our local development scheme, there's statutory steps that each local authority has to go through. So Regulation 19 would be your publication stage. So in effect, and this is all set out within our local development scheme, they're all the statutory steps that you do before you get to examination. So every authority will have to go through those, Chair.
Right. The other thing, Chair, is I wonder if Ashley would agree with me that you cannot review the local plan purely and simply based on numbers and nothing else. Housing numbers and nothing else. You must have other supplementary sustainable assessments done, other SPDs completed. You know, I get the idea that some people believe that reviewing the local plan is just about housing numbers, and it isn't. Would you agree with me on that?
Ashley?
So the council's committed to review its local plan in entirety. Under the legislation, you can undertake a partial review. That isn't something we're doing. but a partial review could look at a single element of your plan. But this council is committed to reviewing its full plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? June Tandy, sorry, Councillor Tandy.
Thanks, Chair. I think what I've heard this afternoon is something that should be discussed perhaps after the election in May, and then whoever is in control of the council will have the ideal opportunity to do their best to change the local plan however they may want to change it, but assuming of course that they will have the inspectors to deal with as well as themselves. I did hear mention of the college planning application, Chair, although I really have no idea what that's got to do with today's meeting. But perhaps it's the point at which I may remind members that the college application was turned down by this council, and they weren't all Conservative members who voted against it. But at the end of the day, it was then agreed by the planning inspectorate. So, you know, we turned it down, it was overturned by the planning inspector, and based on the comments I've just made, Chair, I will move the resolutions as printed.
Thank you.
I will second that, Chair, as printed. Councillor Neil Phillips.
I'd like to move to the vote. Are you?
Hand raised for quite some time.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure it ever went down.
Well, it did because I re-raised it.
Oh, I see. Are you claiming priority next? Yeah.
Well, I had my hand raised certainly before
Okay.
Councillor Phillips and
I'll take you
That's
first, then,
patiently
Councillor Golby. Yeah.
So, in reference to what Councillor Tandy has just said, I think that the college application has far more relevance to Nuneaton and Bedworth than North Warwickshire. What relevance it is that they haven't adopted their borough plan yet, that's got nothing to do with us. Go and complain to North Warwickshire, really.
Could I make a point of personal explanation, please, Chair, in that I never mentioned any numbers in North Warwickshire relating to North Warwickshire and Hinckley College application.
Okay. I'll clarify that then for those that didn't quite get the previous speaker and the speaker previous to that. Councillor Phillips actually brought up North Warwickshire Borough Council not adopting the plan. Councillor Tandy said that the college application, she didn't see any relevance. Well, I see it as more relevant than what North Warwickshire Borough Council are doing. So the two of you together can kind of work that one out between yourselves.
Another point of personal explanation, Chair. There was nothing I said that mentioned in any shape or form North Warwickshire Borough Council. I don't care what council.
You didn't.
I did not.
I have made that clear.
All right. This is getting terribly
I did
unruly.
not mention North Warwickshire Borough Council when I spoke, Chair, and I object strongly, very strongly, to having my comments linked with something I have never spoken about.
I'm moving to the vote because this is getting worse. I'm sorry, I'm not going to lose control of the meeting. We're trying to make progress towards recommendations.
Chair,
can you help with that, please?
Chair, if I may, can I clarify that Councillor Tandy did not mention North Warwickshire Borough Council? Councillor Phillips did. I've said it three times.
That's no longer the point, Councillor Golby. Let's make progress, please.
I'm trying to actually ask a question, whether we can do a partial review based on the fact that the college application got through on appeal and the appellant, if I remember correctly, the government inspector said it was due to the fact that we put minimum numbers but no maximum numbers of houses. So we've got no maximum ceiling of housing numbers. Is that correct? Can we then do some sort of partial review in the process of the overall scheme to put maximum numbers on to stop speculative and additional planning applications coming through, us rejecting it, and then it going to the government inspector, and the government inspector saying, you've got no maximum numbers in your borough plan, so I've got to allow it. He had to allow it on a point of law. We have been left trying to make a silk purse out of a pig's ear with this borough plan. And this is the point of the college application in relation to the current borough plan that we have now. We have no maximum housing numbers, therefore it goes through on appeal. The whole point of this borough plan was to stop us getting subjected to planning by appeal. That was your whole raison d'etre with this. And now we are still subject to planning by appeal. What can we put in to stop that as part of a partial borough plan review? Somebody please answer that question.
As I understand it, an appeal is an absolute right for any developer if they want to go to appeal.
However,
I'm sorry, I've got
inspector have specific.
I've got Philip.
This is an exercise in futility.
Councillor Golby. I'm calling Philip Richardson. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I can just deal with that last point. In terms of the wording that's in the borough plan, it's a reflection of, I think, government policy that the local plan should not state absolute numbers. And in fact, the wording that we have got, which is, it refers to at least a certain number, was actually a specific requirement of the inspector at the local plan inquiry. I think if you were to seek to amend that, my suspicion is, given that government policy hasn't changed, is that the inspector would not accept that and would require us to retain the wording or something similar with a similar effect. In terms of the college side, it does occur to me, Chair, that there may, it's not really a discussion for now, but there is an issue here, perhaps, that we need to undertake some member training in terms of how the planning process works, because I think there's a misapprehension on the part of certainly Councillor Golding from what she said, possibly Councillor Tromans as well, that if you stipulate you're making allocations, that is an end to the matter in terms of what other development might come forward during the planned period. And I think it's just worth iterating that, in fact, there is provision within the plan for additional housing. So the 5-year supply is a minimum requirement. It's not a maximum requirement. And therefore, the expectation is that if a suitable location within the urban area, which is sustainable, were to come forward, so a brownfield site, for example, then the expectation is that that would be granted planning permission. And in fact, the NPPF positively supports that and says that there is a presumption in favour of development. But that's perhaps something that we need to pick up with training for elected members to make that point, because just because you've got allocated sites does not of itself end the discussion or the debate in terms of whether or not a particular site merits planning permission. And I think, as Ash may have referred to earlier, or it may have been Phil, the test is whether or not something is compliant with the borough plan. So if it's not an allocated site, any site that does come forward will be tested against the policies in the plan, and if it satisfies those and there are no other material considerations to suggest that it shouldn't be approved, there is a presumption to say that it should be granted planning permission. And that's effectively where we got to in terms of the college site. Going forward, and I think we can all do some crystal ball gazing on this. I think it'd be very difficult to predict going forward what a future borough plan could look like, because there are a number of potential changes in the ether at the moment, not least the government white paper that might alter the housing numbers, or maybe looking at whether or not the duty to cooperate would go. but we don't know what those are currently. So the timetable that we have, and it is in the, it's not in the Gantt chart that Councillor Troman's referred to, because that's a Gantt chart that covers purely the supplementary planning documents. But the timetable is in the local development scheme, and as it says in the report, the next stage in the local plan review will start in May, so not very far away, with the issues and options consultation, which is the next statutory step that we have to take in order to progress the local plan. And if you look at the time frames that we've got there in the local development scheme, identifies that we would be at examination by July next year. So in reality, I question how quickly councillors would expect us to be able to bring that timetable forward. I guess if you were to ask Ash the question, how quickly could you bring it forward? The first question he says is, well, how much have you got? Because I would need quite a significant level of resource, because if we're going to take things out of sequence in terms of what's happening elsewhere in the housing market area, we would have to do an awful lot of work for ourselves to progress that forward. So there is a time frame that we're working to. So to concertina that would require quite a significant level of resource, which currently we haven't got. And even then, I'm not entirely sure, in reality, by how much you could shave off that. I'd be guided by Ash if we were asked that question, but clearly July 2022 for submission and examination, it's not that far away in reality, given that we do have to do those formal public consultation exercises in the interim. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions on that, but I have made a note, and I will talk to Ash in terms of whether we can, post-election, we can put some training together for elected members to understand, if you like, the subtleties and idiosyncrasies of the planning system, because clearly I think it would help members to understand that.
You're muted, Chair.
Yes, I know, it just told me that as well. Did you say? I think with this debate could go on for an awful long time. I think we've had the vote proposed, the vote on the recommendations proposed. I want to move to that vote as quickly as I can. Can I ask you to limit your time, Councillor Evans and Councillor Tromans? I do think this debate in particular is not going anywhere, is it? I'll call Councillor Evans first. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I actually want to agree with some of the comments made by Councillor Tandy, in that I think that we do need to debate this further, potentially at a full council meeting, and therefore I'd like to propose, in addition to the recommendations, that this the local plan review be considered at the April full council meeting for members to debate further. Thank you.
Can we have some guidance, Philip? Is that possible? It's a new council, is it not?
Sorry, Chair, I'll just take my hand down before I... no, Chair, I think that's absolutely... I think what Councillor Evans is effectively moving is an amendment, perhaps, to the motion to suggest that you note the report, but then it be referred to full council for debate, which is perfectly reasonable, perfectly acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
You will need a seconder, Chair, by the way. So
yes. Have we got a seconder?
I can second that, Chair, and if you like, I can make
is something in the chat somewhere that we can talk about?
I'm happy to type it in, Chair. Just give me 2 minutes. Sorry.
Okay.
In the meantime, shall I make the point I was going to make?
Yes, why not?
Two points really. I love the idea of the member training. Just a few years too late.
Yeah, it hasn't worked so far, has it?
No,
Certainly not on you.
Well, I was going to say, actually, Chair, I think the two people it should be addressed to first of all might be the leader of the council, who clearly, when they stood up there and kept telling us that the borough plan was needed, because obviously that would stop all this development by appeal and all the rest of it, clearly didn't understand, or it seems if they did, they weren't being very honest with the public. And again, when all the portfolio holders, one after another for the borough plan, stood up there and said, we've got to have this because it'll stop it by appeal, perhaps they needed more training, or perhaps they conveniently forgot. And indeed, your good self tonight chided us, Chair, on the fact that, oh, well, you know, if you do try and do that, of course, you'll end up with by trying to disrupt the borough plan. That's the only thing that keeps you safe from planning on appeal. But apparently, as we've heard, you and I both need training, because that's completely wrong, because, you know, the borough plan doesn't protect us from any of that. So if this was known within the council, why on earth didn't the leader and all the portfolio holders come clean and be honest with the public for all these years? And I hear what Director Richardson says about, oh, it's not long now until July 2022 or whatever, but we've been at this for years. And saying that we'll be ready for a submission then means nothing. You know, the plan's not a plan until it's adopted, and that, according to the Gantt chart, will not be before February 2023. That's another 2 years away after the years we've been on this already, and the many years that it was going before that. So yeah, I think if we can just vote on the amendment, it'd probably be as wise.
Okay. Anyone want to speak to the amendment?
Chair, could I come in, please?
Yes, sure.
I've got my hand up. I think it's very apt that councillors do need training, because it looks to me as though there's a few councillors that don't actually know how the planning system works. I remember at the Hawkesbury developments that was going through, and the officers' recommendation was for approval, and I remember one of the developers' things, who says, the last time we took this through, defending the people of Hawkesbury by turning this down, it cost this council £120,000, because the then government inspector turned that appeal down. Thinking about it, that was under the coalition, and the one that turned it down, the one that actually said in favour of the good people of Hawkesbury was John Prescott. That shows you how far that goes back, that argument. But I don't want to bring that back up, Chair, because it looks like some councillors actually need more training. And secondly, there's on the evidence base of 4.8. At the end here it says, I hope that joint house and economic development needs assessment will be commissioned shortly. Can I ask somebody, because things move so quickly, the new government bill that's going through the House of Commons at the present moment, I've no idea when it is in the Commons, about the new police powers in relation to gypsy and travel accommodations, etc., assessments. Will that be looked at the same time? Because
point of order.
This is a moving feast, and I think it should be important that we look at it. That it should be looked at as soon as possible.
Chair, you're muted.
Have you finished, Councillor?
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Okay.
I just want to get that point over.
We'll get your point answered at some point before the final meeting, the final resolution comes together. We're talking about that the local plan committee resolves to refer the matter of the local plan review for further debate at the April full council. Okay, Kyle, are you? Yeah. Oh, it's your writing, isn't it? Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Any member wants to speak to that?
Other than requesting that there be a recorded vote on the item of amendment, rather, but yeah.
Yeah. Who's the seconder? Have we got one?
Yes, it was Councillor Troman's, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah. Chair, I've got my hand raised, and it is a new hand.
I welcome your new hand. Councillor Golby.
Yeah, just like to speak to the amendment. I want to speak in support of the amendment because I would like the current council to sit in a meeting and tell the public that they've misled them. You have clearly misled us because you have told us all the way along that this would help stop with planning by appeal, and now it turns out that actually it doesn't. And oh well, never mind. It's not going to be our mess to clean up. And I'd like you all to sit there and face the public on this. So I happily support this, and I can't wait for that meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other speakers on the amendment? No, it's a recorded vote then.
Chair,
Sorry.
Councillor Evans and Councillor Glass both have their hands up.
Councillor Glass.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Obviously, I'm going to vote against this because it's nonsense. It's another delaying tactic by the Conservatives. They've tried this for years and years and years, and people know their little games, and this is another part of their overall game, and I'm not going to play their game, so I shall be voting against it.
All right. Councillor Evans.
Well, I have to say, I find it extremely rich that Councillor Glass is trying to say that we're trying to delay the process. If you, Councillor Glass, I mean, I trust that you've read this report that's been presented to you tonight. The local development scheme says we won't even get to a public consultation on the borough plan review until July 2022. So I'm not going to be accused of delaying things. I want to get this to full council to raise these issues because we need to get a move on with this. My primary concern is that we need to review the housing numbers as quickly as possible, because I believe that we're at a point where we're coming close to not meeting our 5-year housing land supply. So we come back to the position that we were in before the adoption of the borough plan, where developers are able to push through their planning applications because we can't meet a 5-year housing land supply. So I'm not trying to delay things. I'm trying to speed the process up. And it seems the only way that the Labour group ever does stuff is if it comes to full council. Trying to do stuff behind the scenes with you lot is pretty difficult. So, yeah, I hope that members will support my amendment.
Right. Can we move to the vote then on the?
I have my hand up, Chair.
Oh, sorry.
So does Councillor Phillips did have his hand up, but he's disappeared, and Ashley has his hand up as well, Chair.
Right. Councillor Tandy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm interesting to hear Councillor Evans' comments about you lot wanting to delay the local plan. Well, I reckon it's more about the Tories want to get it on the full council agenda before May the 6th so that they can have yet another stab at arguing about the local plan that was agreed by their very own government inspectorate. Thank you, Chair. And I propose, and Chair, I propose we move to the vote.
Point of order. Point of order. Councillor Tandy needs to do her research. The planning inspector is not part of the government. The planning inspectorate is a completely independent organisation. The same argument would apply by saying that your GP is a member of the Conservative Party. It's simply not true.
Chair, I'm proposing we move to the vote.
Okay, I'd like to take the vote if I can. We've got to make progress.
Is there a second for my proposal, Chair?
Yes, Councillor Phillips, Chair.
Councillor Glass.
Are we clear?
Are you ready to go take the vote, Chair? This is on the amendment.
Yeah.
And the amendment is as set out by Councillor Evans in the chat.
Yes.
Okay, so if members could indicate whether they're for or against the amendment. So Councillor Beaumont?
Against.
Councillor Evans?
just waiting for my video to come on. I'm for.
Yeah. Councillor Golby.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Sargent.
For.
Councillor Shepherd.
Against.
Councillor Tandy.
Against.
Councillor Tromans.
For.
I think you missed me out, Philip.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Glass wasn't on the list.
Against.
Councillor Glass.
Against.
The amendment's lost, Chair. 4 votes to 5.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Yeah, we keep being told by the council that when we vote, we have to put our cameras on. I didn't see Councillor Shepherd turn her camera on to vote. So how do we know that it's Councillor Shepherd that's just voted?
Do you want me to answer that, Chair?
Go on then.
Well, it's a point that was raised at council, Chair, in terms of the virtual meetings protocol, that members should turn their cameras on when they vote, but obviously there may be reasons why a member can't do that if it's a technological reason or whatever. So it'll be one for members to explain why they're not turning their cameras on in those circumstances.
Are you saying that we should have an explanation now from Councillor Shepherd?
Well, if you're taking a vote, Chair, and a member doesn't turn the camera on, you can ask them just to turn it on, and if they say, "I'm sorry, Chair, I can't," then obviously you'll have to take a view. But it doesn't invalidate their vote. It doesn't prevent them from voting if they don't turn the camera on.
Councillor Shepherd. You mute. Oh, there you are.
Thank you, Chair. I should have explained at the beginning of the meeting. I do have issues with my broadband. There is other members of my family that use it. No, I can't suddenly say to them, please turn it off. I want to go on for a 4-hour meeting, which I think is totally unacceptable. This is a broadband paid by a family member. However, I have had issues with my camera, and I find it easier to hear in terms of volume when the camera is off, and that is why the camera is off.
Thank you very much. So we have recommendations. They've been proposed and seconded. Can we move to the vote on the recommendations?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the recommendation as moved by Councillor Tandy, seconded by Councillor Phillips, and it's the recommendations as printed in the reports. So can you say whether you're for or against the recommendations? Councillor Beaumont?
For.
Councillor Evans?
I'm going to vote against on this one. I don't agree with the local development scheme, so I'm against. And I'd like my vote recorded in the minutes.
Thank you. Councillor Golby?
I'm abstaining on this.
Councillor Phillips?
For, Chair.
Councillor Sargent?
For.
Councillor Shepherd?
For, Chair, and apologies, Chair, for no camera.
Councillor Tandy?
For.
Councillor Tromans?
I'm abstaining on this.
Councillor Glass?
For, Chair, my apologies for the camera.
Okay, right. That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, I don't think there's any other business that we have to conduct, so I'll ask for the live stream to be turned off.